to Tennessee's at-home learning series for literacy. Today's lesson is for all our 6th graders out there, though everyone is welcome. This is the lesson that is the 4th in our series for this week. My name is Megan Gilley, and I am a 6th grade teacher in Tennessee schools. I'm super excited to be your teacher for today's lesson. Welcome to my virtual classroom. If you didn't see any of our previous lessons or you'd like to revisit this lesson, you may go to the Tennessee Department of Education's website at www.tn.gov/education. You can still tune into today's lesson if you haven't seen any of our others, but it might be more fun if you first go back and watch our other lessons, since today we'll be talking about things that we learned previously. Today we will be learning about how the author uses language to build characters and to move to a resolution in our story, Arachne. Before we get started, to participate fully in our lesson today, you will need a piece of paper, a pen or pencil, a surface to write on, your independent practice from lesson 13, and the student packet for ELA grade 6, lesson 14, which can be found on the Tennessee Department of Education's website, again at www.tn.gov/education. So take a moment to gather your supplies, and then we will begin. All right, let's get started, learners. In lesson 12, we studied the elements of the myth Arachne and how they led to a resolution. Pop quiz time. Just kidding, but let's honestly see what you remember. What is the word that means how the author reveals the main character in the setting in the story? Correct. It is exposition. Who knows what word means a struggle between a character and or someone or something else? It is first introduced in the exposition as well. It is conflict. Great job. What is the word that means the development of the conflict? The conflict just kind of continues to complicate itself and it leads to the climax. It is called our rising action. Great job. What about the turning point of the conflict? It's like where we're on the edge of our seat. It's usually the most exciting part of the story, and the conflict can kind of be resolved in one way or the other. This event is called the climax. Great job. And lastly, this all leads us down to our final part where the loose ends of the story come to a close, and it describes the results of the climax. This is known as our resolution. Great job. During lesson 13, we focused on the conflict. Conflict, again, is one major problem between the main character of the story and someone or something else. It's what drives the plot forward. Without a compelling conflict, the reader would likely lose interest. We really wouldn't have a story without a problem. The conflict gives characters a reason to act and change as the story goes on. So the conflict in our text is between Arachne and Athena. Arachne is immortal and Athena is immortal. We took notes that helped us determine how the conflict from each episode affected the characters, Arachne and Athena. And as a result of the conflict, Arachne is then transformed into a spider. As we ended the lesson, I asked you to imagine that you were one of the spectators of the face-off between Arachne and Athena. Would you have supported your fellow mortal Arachne or the goddess Athena in the competition, and why? So I want you to take just a moment to reread what you wrote. Okay, I'm going to read a student example to you, and as I read, I want you to listen for how the student supported her argument with evidence from the text. Being there to see the weaving battle between Arachne and Athena was one of the greatest contests I have ever witnessed. As I was there silently cheering on my fellow mortal, Arachne, I noticed a strange mood among all of the people watching. Deep down, we all wanted Arachne to win. I mean, she is one of us. But as Athena seemed to get angrier and angrier throughout the contest, it became clear that it would be safer for all of us to not upset the goddess even more. And boy, we were right. After Athena punished Arachne by turning her into a spider, the crowd knew once and for all that in any contest between a mortal and an immortal, always make sure you are on the side of the immortal. Wow, so when I read this example, I heard details that Arachne is a mortal, and then of course that Athena here is a goddess. So those help to support the argument from the text. Today, our goal is to take a little deeper look at the language the author used to develop the characters and to lead to the resolution. We will begin with me showing you what that looks like as we reread parts of the text. Then there will be time for you to do that, to practice on your own with my support. And then finally, I will assign you an independent assignment that you can complete after the video ends. Before we dig in, let's get ourselves organized with a chart to capture our thinking for today and the evidence as we read. Grab a piece of paper and something to write with. I'll give you a few moments to get your things and draw your chart like this. Again, I want you to draw into a 3-column chart similar to what we've done in previous lessons this week. So there will be 3 columns and 3 rows. We know that big transformations occur in this myth, so we're going to be focusing on transformations of these characters and the descriptive language that the author uses to reveal them. So at the top, write the word transformations as your title of this chart. On the left-hand side, we are going to label Arachne's descriptions as the first row, Athena's feelings, and then Arachne's feelings. And we want to consider what they were before they transformed and after. So make sure that your chart looks similar to mine, and I believe that we are ready to dig in. So in this lesson, you will analyze again how the author used language choices, support our understanding of the characters, and move to the resolution of the transformation of Arachne to a spider. As always, it is good to review what happened in our text. So again, we are reading a Greek origin myth. Do you remember the purpose of an origin myth? Great. It's a kind of story which explains how something came into being. And what is the origin that this text is explaining? That's right, how spiders came to being, or the origin of spiders. So let's start by looking at a selection about Arachne. And I want you to listen for the descriptions of Arachne before the transformation to a spider occurred. And look at the bold language there. As the crowd watched, woven flowers sprang up under Arachne's fingers, just as real as the flowers that sprang from the ground. Despite herself, Athena marveled at the magic skill of the fair Arachne. So even right here, what descriptive language does the writer Jean Lang use to describe Arachne's physical descriptions? Remember, this is before her transformations. Good. Arachne is saying, or the writer is saying that Arachne is fair. In this particular context, fair is referring to beautiful. So when we get this description of Arachne, we want to write down that she is being described as fair and beautiful. So add that to your chart, and then we will continue reading on. We're going to dig into how the author again uses language to show the differences or contrast in Arachne's appearance after her transformation. So as I read, think about how Athena transforms Arachne. Even as Athena spoke, Arachne's fair form dried up and withered. Her straight limbs grew gray and crooked and wiry, and her smooth white arms were no more. 8 legs sprouted and her body shrank, and then just as suddenly as it had started, there was silence. Tiny beside the loom, where just moments before the beautiful weaver of Lydia had stood, crawled a creature that few love and many fear. So what did you write here? Because the author used some great language. I heard that after this transformation, Arachne here is being described as dried up and withered. Withered is another word for dried up and skinny, kind of like withered away. So did you capture those to jot down in your chart for after the description of Arachne after the transformation? Dry and withered here are really used as negative words. And so I want you to look a little deeper at this phrase that her smooth white arms were no more. What does that mean? I'm going to have to infer here that the text says, and what I know about spiders, that spiders' legs are hairy, so I can infer that Athena has made Arachne's arms and legs hairy like a spider. So therefore, I know that she now has 8 legs, and she also crawls. So when we have Arachne's descriptions before her transformation, she was fair and beautiful, as the author described in the text. But here we have dry and withered, shown by her smooth white arms are no more. She has 8 legs and crawls. I also think that we should add the line that few love and many fear, because that's the description of her after the fact. I wouldn't say that that was the case before she was transformed into a spider. All right, readers. So hopefully you've captured those on your transformation chart, and we're going to continue, but I want us to think just a little bit deeper, but this time about Athena's feelings. So, and I've circled that in orange here. We're going to look at Athena's feelings before the transformation. So this text is short here. It says, despite herself, Athena marveled at the magic skill of the fair Arachne. To understand the line, we have to break it down, and you can see I've already started to do that here with the meanings of some of the words. The word despite herself, Athena marveled at the magic skill of the fair Arachne. Despite means even though she didn't want to, she marveled. She was kind of wowed by the skill of Arachne. So despite means even though. So sometimes we have these feelings that we can't control, is what is being described here. So what feeling is she having? Well, she marveled. She was amazed by Arachne's weaving. So how might we say this in our own words about how Athena was feeling before she transformed Arachne into a spider? Yeah, I think it's that she was amazed by Arachne's weaving. So even though Athena doesn't want to, she is amazed by Arachne's weaving. So add that to your chart of how Athena felt before the transformation to a spider. Now I'm going to read a different section. And like before, I want you to think about how Athena must be feeling in this moment. But in this selection, Arachne is thinking. So I want you to listen for how Arachne is feeling before the transformation. I have spoken truth, she said. Not woman nor goddess can weave like me. I'm ready to abide by what I have said, and if I did boast, by my boast I stand. If you will agree, great goddess, to try your skill against mine and you win, I will gladly pay the price. So what do you think? What is this moment telling us about how Arachne is feeling in this moment? Yeah, I think she's feeling bold. Not woman nor goddess can weave like me. And if I did boast, by my boast I stand. Here she is feeling pretty bold. and confident in her skill. So let's continue on. I want you now to go back and listen to Athena's feelings also before the transformation, but in this particular section. So the gray eyes of Athena the goddess grew dark as the sea when a thundercloud hangs over it and a mighty storm is coming. Not for one moment did she delay, but took her place by the side of Arachne. On the loom they stretched out 2 webs with a fine yarn and quickly set to work. And so here again, be thinking about, how is Athena feeling before the transformation here? The gray eyes of Athena the goddess grew as dark as the sea. I'm thinking here that she grew dark as the sea. We have words like thunder and hangs and the word like storm. Are these positive words? I don't think so. So it's telling me that she has this feeling stirring up within her where she is feeling extremely angry before she transforms Arachne into a spider. That is how she feels, extremely angry. And we know what she does as a result. She rips the tapestry of Arachne. So let's take a look at the next section. And we're going to look at, still before the transformation, how did Arachne feel before, beyond feeling just bold? So Arachne glanced up from her web and looked with eyes that glowed with the love of beautiful things at the creations of Athena. Yet, unafraid, her fingers still sped on, and the goddess saw with a look that grew yet more clouded how a mere girl had chosen for subjects the tales that showed the weaknesses of the gods. One after another, the living pictures grew beneath her hand, and the crowd held their breath in mingled fear and excitement at Arachne's godlike skill and daring. So what did we learn about Arachne's pride and confidence as she wove in front of Athena? I want you to look at this line here, that tales that showed the weaknesses of the gods. This is more evidence that tells us about Athena's feelings here. Again, more evidence that she is bold because she's showing the weaknesses of the gods through her work. She is competing against Athena, who is a goddess. So what does it tell us about Arachne? Again, she's not intimidated at all by Athena. Even though she is a goddess, she's not intimidated, and she just continues the work that she knows how to do. It says that, yet unafraid, her fingers still sped on. So can you picture her fingers moving quickly? Just how she would normally work. I can. So we have already read the section I'm about to read once again, but we're going to revisit it for a different purpose. So I want you to think about what this selection tells us about how Athena feels about Arachne after the transformation. So you'll see in orange there, Athena's feelings after the transformation. Even as Athena spoke, Arachne's fair form dried up and withered. Her straight limbs grew gray and crooked and wiry, and her smooth white arms were no more. 8 legs sprouted and her body shrank, and then, just as suddenly as it had started, there was silence. Tiny beside the loom, where just moments before the beautiful weaver of Lydia had stood, crawled a creature that few love and many fear. What do you think about this as a consequence? Because it's a pretty harsh and brutal way to punish her, right? Why do you think Athena feels like she has to punish her so harshly? Maybe so. I think she might feel embarrassed that Arachne could outweave her, and probably a little bit of betrayal as well. Remember, mortals were supposed to look up to the gods, not equal them or challenge them, as Arachne did here. What other feeling do you think Athena might be feeling? I think she might have been a little jealous of Arachne's weaving skills. So Athena, did she permanently punish her, or was it just temporary? Yeah, she permanently changed her into a spider forever. She wants to show mortals that they should not try to compete with the gods by doing this in front of everybody. I also think she wanted to make sure that the beautiful girl was turned into something ugly and hated. So I think she loved her punishment, that it made Arachne ugly, feared, and hated. And then she was proud of the punishment. So she liked the punishment because of what it did, and then she was proud of it. So add that to your chart. This is a really interesting story to look at, the story of Arachne. Isn't it cool how authors are so good at helping us visualize as we read? Again, authors have a certain craft where they want to utilize everything that they know how to do to help us better understand as readers what it is that they're trying to say. So every detail and every choice that an author makes is something that we need to stop as readers and think about, why did the author choose to put that in there? It's got to tell me more about something. So they deliberately choose the perfect words, and we can see what it reveals in this case. Here we have the author's descriptions and feelings that tell us about how they felt before and after the certain transformations. So let's look at our chart. We have taken a look at the descriptions of how Arachne looked before the transformation and after. We have also looked at how Athena felt before and after the transformation. And then we've also looked at how Arachne felt before. But we are missing information about how Arachne felt after her transformation. In the last paragraph of the text, the very last part of the story, I think will help us infer how Arachne felt. We can make a good guess based upon what the text says and then what we already know. So be thinking in this next section, how does Lang, the author, use descriptions to give us insight to Arachne's feelings after the transformation? So are you ready? Let's go ahead and read. The sun has not long enough shown his face to dry up the dew in the garden, and look at the little clipped tree of boxwood, a great wonder. For in and out, and all over its twigs and leaves, Arachne has woven her web, and on the web the dew has dropped 1,000,000 diamond drops, and suddenly all the colors in the sky are mirrored dazzlingly on the gray tapestry of her making. Arachne has come to her own again. So I want us to investigate here what words the author has deliberately added to help us to begin to think about Arachne's feelings after her transformation to a spider. So let's think about one who is speaking in this section. Yeah, we have the narrative's perspective here. Notice we don't have Arachne's thoughts or dialogue. And I want you to take a look at the line that is underlined. The sun has not long enough shown his face to dry up the dew in the garden. What might this be telling us about Arachne here? Well, I know it's early morning because dew happens in the morning. And the sun has not been out long. I think this might tell me that Arachne still likes weaving because she is up early in the morning weaving. We also read that Arachne's webs were a great wonder. Do you think those words are a clue that she's still good at her work or not? Yeah, I mean, her work is a great wonder. That has a positive connotation to it. So, yeah, I think she's still doing her work well. What are other clues that she's still good at what she does and that her webs are really beautiful? I want you to think about that. What do we have here? Okay, I want you to take a look at this sentence that Arachne has woven her web, and on the web the dew has dropped 1,000,000 diamond drops, and suddenly all the colors in the sky are mirrored dazzlingly on the gray tapestry of her making. he makes something as simple as a spider web sound absolutely gorgeous here. And of all the lines, I think that the words the author chooses in the very last line give us clues about her feeling. It says that Arachne has come to her own again. Again, who is saying this about Arachne? Yeah, it's the narrator here. So I'm thinking that as a spider, she still owns what belongs to her. But I think it goes even deeper. I think she's saying that this is her primary task. This is what she's meant to do, is weaving. And that's what spiders are born for. So I believe you are ready to head into your independent practice with this information. Again, she still likes weaving, if not more than she ever has before. So in the last paragraph of Arachne, we only get the narrator's perspective. We don't really know how Arachne felt and have to infer based on what the author gives us. So imagine that you are Arachne after your transformation to a spider. Write a narrative telling us how you feel. Are you happy with your new self? Do you hate it? How does it feel when people are scared of you? Do you like that you get to weave all the time? What are your feelings toward Athena now that you're a spider? Be sure to use details from your chart to help you describe how you feel as Arachne the spider. Also, make sure to use good descriptive language to help your reader see the story that you are telling. So I want you to have fun with that task. Use details from your chart and use good descriptive language to help your reader see that story. I enjoyed looking today at the descriptions before and Arachne's transformation. This has been a great journey and story exploring the Greek origin myth with you, Arachne. In our next lesson, we are going to think about how ancient Greek myths are still relevant today. Super cool. Thank you for inviting me into your home. Bye.